Folks, welcome back to the Crossing Swords podcast presented by Batavia Downs Gaming Hotel. I am Gatesy, joined today by the one, the only Mike_Bundt at Carson. Heck, gentlemen, it's been a couple weeks since we last talked. We had Christmas, we had some downtime. And since our last episode, everything we've talked about has done a complete 180 because your Buffalo Sabres, as of right now, January 1st, 2026, are a new team in a new year because they're on a 10-game winning streak. Bunty, how are you feeling? You know, we're seeing a Sabres team we've never really seen before.
Yeah, it's a new year, and it's a new Buffalo Sabres team in front of us. It's been a lot of fun over the last 3 weeks watching this team tie a franchise record winning streak. Will be exciting to see them try to extend that streak and set a new record against the Blue Jackets, but hard to not be feeling great the way things are going lately, Carson.
Yeah, 100%. It all starts in the Western road trip with that Edmonton victory, which was in overtime, and that looked like one they were going to magically kind of let slip away from them as McDavid tied that with 2 seconds left. I typically circle back to that as the starting point. Obviously, with the first win of the streak starting that, it's like, wow, that seems like ages ago. And everything that's went on with this team as far as the general manager change, front office making some sweeping changes as well with Bergevin and Josh Flynn also coming in. So it's interesting to see, 10 game heater right now. The team's playing really good hockey, specifically in crunch time and times that it matters most, whether that's in the third period or overtime. So they're winning when it matters most. They're playing solid hockey, and they've been consistent lately, which is, I think, the most important thing that sticks out to me. And we've also had some guys step up. I'm excited to talk about the team tonight, and here we are looking at the wild card spot. A lot of hockey left, though. Job's not finished. So
a lot of hockey left, and yeah, as of right now, Carson, the Sabres are in that second wild card spot, which after the roller coaster of the season of the losing streak, the amount of guys that had out of the lineup, this winning streak, firing your general manager, it feels like a million things have happened and we're not even halfway through. So it is, exciting, but it's also scary because we've seen, a song and dance a lot. And I'm going to kick it to you, Bunty, in a second of just, is the Sabres team feel different for you? But for me, I look at the Sabres team just on this winning streak alone. You look at the first game of this in Edmonton, they had a 3-0 lead in the third period, which they blew with, 2 goals in the first 2 minutes and then 1 goal in the final seconds. And you look at the game last night against the Dallas Stars team that was very, very, very good. You give up a goal in the first 15 seconds and you shut it down. There have been an incredible second period team. You see them take a 2-1 lead going into the third period again. Instead of letting a great Dallas Stars team back in, the Sabres not only survived and held them up, but Tage Thompson took over and scored 2 goals, securing a 4-1 win. And for me, this team just feels night and day different from what we saw just a month ago, a couple weeks ago. But I want to kick it to you, Bunty. Do you feel that same way about the Sabres team, that this is a totally different team, even though it's basically the same players on the ice?
Yeah, I mean, when healthy, the Sabres team has been very solid this year. And if we're being real, you, me, Carson, I believe we've all felt that they had the ability to compete for a wild card spot even going into the year, even when a lot of people were pessimistic about the team. But they battled a ton of injuries early in the season. They were sloppy. It looked like at times they might have been quitting on their general manager. So there was a lot of things that went into the season. And after you get off to a little bit of a slow start, you get this fear of here we go again, and this is what it's going to take to get back into it. And you're now on a 10-game winning streak, and you're just barely into the playoffs. You got to keep it going. Like you're nowhere near safe at the current moment in time, which is wild considering they've won 10 in a row. But it's one of those where, as confident as I am with this team and as confident as I am with their metrics, it's still wait and see mode. They have to keep it going. They can't just lose 3 in a row and suddenly be fine, because then they're going to be 3 points back of a wild card spot again. The metrics say that this team is solid, and realistically, they're probably a top 10 to 14 team in the NHL right now. Their expected goals allowed are both pretty solid. Nothing extraordinary, but pretty solid. And their goaltending was the one area they had a lot of struggles with early in the season. And ironically, since Colton Ellis went down, they've kind of been able to find some stability with Lyon and UPL, which kind of shows the 3 goalie tandem that Kevin Adams was forcing Lindy Ruff to have was kind of hurting them. Now you have Lyon down, which kind of hurts you a little bit from that standpoint, but Ellis is good to come back. So you just kind of switch the 2 goalies to Ellis and UPL in the time being. But I guess my answer is I'm cautiously optimistic right now about this team's chances. And did any of us play hockey growing up? Gatesy actually played college hockey. So
you got one of these at home?
So we definitely have, and then Jake from Pay the Bills, he played some junior hockey. So we do have a lot of hockey around here. And I didn't play organized, but obviously everybody in Buffalo plays street hockey and roller hockey growing up. But I would say to wrap up my point, this team, when they had the 10-game winning streak the last time around, it was kind of flukish. 7 of the games went to overtime or a shootout. The metrics said that they were overperforming. This time around, they've dominated 3 straight opponents. They destroyed the Boston Bruins at home on Saturday. They took care of the St. Louis Blues. And even though the shot totals weren't that far off against Dallas, a 4-1 win on the road in Dallas, that's an impressive performance. So what are they? I think the Sabres are a good team that the expectations now should go from can they compete for a wild card spot to they should definitely make the playoffs. And now the question is, could they win a series if they make the playoffs? And I would say this, you're 5 points behind Detroit, 2 games in hand. You're right there with Montreal. Tampa's not far ahead of you. This team is good enough that they make the playoffs. They could advance.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. Not even close. With that said, to answer the initial question of is this team different, I'm a little bit on the opposite end. No, they're not. I'm going to take a little bit more of a literal approach to this. Before the season, we all talked about it. Jay Fresh, one of the best for those people who are not familiar with his Twitter account, one of the best guys when it comes to models, projections, year in, year out. I mean, the guy is hitting at like 75% of plus or minus 5 points with his point projections with teams entering the year. And I believe what he had us at, I think it was either 87 or 89 points. You look right now.
He had them at 91.
91. Okay, so regardless,
evolving hockey.
Actually, it might have been 93. The
one was one, yeah.
Jay Fresh had him, I believe, at 93. Athletic had him at 91. Evolving Hockey had them at 98. Right now, they're on pace for 97.
Yes. Their last
10 games are on pace for 164 points over an 82-game season. So
that's true.
Take that into effect as well.
Dom put up something from The Athletic today as well. His updated projections, I believe it had us at like a 49% chance to make the playoffs, along with, I believe, a 92-point pace, according to his projections. So to me, the roots of the team were always there. Like the advanced metrics or what the people that and the computers that are way smarter than we are would say is, hey, they were underperforming a little bit. They were extremely inconsistent. They'd win 3, lose 3, that type of thing for the first month and a half of the season. And I do think when the team got healthy, which we have seen, it was always, okay, how long can they stay in this until Josh Norris comes back or Zach Benson or Jason Zucker? Well, you look at them now, they're pretty much at full health. Kulik's got the whole blood clot going on. You know, there are certain guys out, right? But it's a physical sport. You're going to have this happen all the time. They're pretty healthy right now. They're playing some of the best hockey they've played maybe throughout the drought, right? But you look at it, like, again, there's so much hockey left. The Eastern Conference doesn't have a team that has a points percentage worse than .512, and that's the New York Rangers. So they're at 43 points. There's not one team, I'd say, in the Eastern Conference where I'm going to say, like, okay, they're definitively out. Like Columbus, like, they're still kind of retooling, right? But at the same time, are at 40 points. Like, what's to say the Columbus Blue Jackets don't get hot? And you look at it's a real shame we're not in the Western Conference because they're battling with a team that has a 538 points percentage is first in the wild card right now, and that's the San Jose Sharks. And I highly doubt they're going to be able to sustain that for another half of the season. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's just like everybody's lumped in, packed together right now. It's extremely competitive. And they stressed us on the broadcast a few nights ago. It's from here on out, it's going to be like a playoff race. Like you're going to have to bring your best foot forward, best style of hockey every single night to have a chance, because everybody around you is competing. Teams are going to be jumping each other left and right for the next 4 months here. And I would like to bring up a quick hypothetical. At the point in time when they did move on from Adams, I was always saying, well, do they wait till their next loss? Remember, this was a conversation we were having just because it's a PR move, right? Hypothetically, let's say the team didn't lose that point on, and this is an added point to it as well. Jarmo's dad, unfortunately for him, passed away the Sunday before he took over, and I do recall there were some reports that the team was unsure if that was going to impact Jarmo's decision on whether or not he's going to be the next general manager. So if they would have waited, I'm really curious. Like, hypothetically, we're saying they win all these games and they're still on a 10-game win streak. I'm curious to see what they would have done in that situation. I probably would have kept Adams at that point. We'd
be printing Kevin Adams shirts right now. We would have a statue up in Alumni Plaza.
It's just interesting.
The decision was already made.
Oh, 100%. I agree. But like, if you're on that much of a heater, it's like, okay, well, we're going to – I don't know. It's just interesting.
I don't think they go on the heater.
I don't either. I don't either.
Have 100% certainty he was gone. And we had this, and we can go back and forth on this. I know we have other things we want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
I believe this win streak is 100% correlated to Kevin Adams getting fired. And I know there's going to be people that say, well, they won 3 before Kevin Adams got fired. That all started right after Jeremy White leaked, basically, that changes were coming. The team knew at that point that their general manager was on the way out. And based on what we've been told, they had the conversations internally about making the change. That means the entire organization basically knew it was happening. Kevin Adams did a photo with the entire team before coming back. That was a goodbye to the team. And this is what I think we have a couple different group texts. So JC, you're part of one, and then one is separate for the Bills content people. But one of the things that we talked about is culture and how in different sports it has different meanings. In a culture like football with 53 players, a lot of it is going to be more based on the coaching staff and the relationship between coaches and players. Hockey, you would think that as well for the most part, but I think it's pretty clear when we're talking about the Sabres culture, it was rotten at the top. It was the players didn't believe they had a general manager that was actually trying to win games. They thought he was a yes man for the ownership group and that there wasn't things being done to truly put them in a position to get over the top. We've been talking for 2-3 years since they had 91 points that we thought they had enough talent to take it to the next level, but they never did. And that Adams didn't swing high enough for those moves. Now, this is the part that's going to contradict itself, but it's kind of the situation. It might have been factually true that Kevin Adams did give the Sabres enough to be a quality team and a winning team, but if the players didn't believe in themselves and they didn't believe in his vision and what he was doing, that it still wasn't going to ever make a difference. And by having a new person running it and then making the moves for Bergevin and Flynn, and then ownership basically showing by Kekalainen's actions and words that we're going to take a step back, that might have been the statement the players needed to receive to finally understand that, okay, now it is on us. We have a competent front office that is going to do what it takes to win games, get us the right pieces, and get us over the top. And now we're the last line of defense. There's no more blaming the general manager. I guess you could blame the head coach, but they're going to get rid of the coach most likely if we don't win anyway. So it became the players' responsibility. And we always talked about it a little bit. Hockey is one of those sports where effort matters more. In basketball, skill might beat effort sometimes because you got LeBron Jameses and then you got lesser talented guys. In baseball, you got to be able to hit a 95-mile-per-hour fastball or you can't. Like hockey, you got to be able to forecheck. You got to go in the dirty parts of the ice. You got to play defense. And I think what's clear from watching the Sabres the last 10 games versus what they were doing early in the year was that they have tuned up their effort to another level. They're buying into what Lindy is preaching. Coincidentally, you've had a fourth line that is just playing unbelievable of late. Your goaltending has gotten better. You've had some of your young talented defensemen in Byram and Power elevate their games. So some of that might be coincidence and just like perfect timing for a run. But there's other elements to this run that kind of show this was a team that was going through the motions for quite a long time and that they needed that jolt to finally wake them up.
And that's what's the thing that surprised me the most is we've heard a lot of, lip service from people in front of media in the Sabres for years. And I mean, Jarmo's first press conference, he said, we need to change how the Sabres play. You can't be getting outworked by teams. They need to bring tenacity. They need to bring, that next level to their game in all facets. And, that's awesome. We've heard that a million times, but to actually see those changes like right off the hop has been, at least for me, the most exciting thing. And the thing that in my mind's like, okay, this feels different than what we saw just a month ago, because you look at the Sabres win streak, every single game, for the most part, they're either, down the first period by 1, they stop the bleeding, they have a great second period, and they hang on the third period and win. I can't really think of a Sabres team I've watched in history where over, a stretch like this, they've been able to have a third period where, the wheels don't fall off. That, I'm not scared every time I see this team play in the third period with a lead. And it feels like just a month ago, if they had a lead with a minute to go, I was like, there's a good possibility they're not going to be able to stop this. And I said it yesterday after the game that we talked in the preseason that we needed like an 8-leg Kevin Adams parlay for the season to really work for the Sabres. We're seeing that right now in this win streak, and the Sabres goaltending has been phenomenal. A couple of games they get up an early goal, but Lyon, UPL have closed the door after the fact. We're seeing defense take a step up, whether that be Bundt talked about Byram and Power doing that. We're seeing depth show up. The middle six is there. The fourth line has been a fan favorite. It's been all these things coming together for this win streak. Obviously, we know the Sabres aren't going to finish the year on a 53-game win streak. That would be cool. That'd be great for numbers. That'd be great for us. But, they are taking advantage of the situation they're in now. They beat a good Dallas Stars team. And over this 10 games, it has been evident that players are playing differently. And one thing, too, before we talk about players that are stepping up is we're seeing the Sabres win these games more recently, one, without Rasmus Dahlin in the lineup, and two, after the break, we haven't seen that level he was right before the break where he was, skating through guys. He was a force. Like, we're having Owen Power be the defenseman with the most minutes in a game. We're seeing Bowen Byram have multi-goal games, multi-point games. Same thing from Matthias Samuelsson, which is very exciting. So I'll kick it to you, Bunty. I've listed a lot of names there. I know there's others we're going to talk about, but is there a guy in your mind that has been, stepped up for you in the biggest way, or someone you just want to, acknowledge that their game feels different in the Jarmo Kekalainen era?
So there have been a few guys. I don't want to list the entire roster. I will name one of Carson's guys, but I'll let Carson go more in depth on it. Bo Byram has been a force of late, but I know that's probably the guy Carson wants to talk about, so I'll leave that to him.
We could talk about really everyone, which is crazy.
But he has been impressive. Samuelsson the whole year has been unbelievable. Power has really played better of late. Still not generating the offensive production that you would expect, but he's gone from
the improvements there,
a -11 to like a -3 in over the stretch of this. So he is definitely stepping up quite a bit. So defensively, that's the number one area for me. Mm-hmm. They're now around 10th in the league in expected goals allowed. And if you go over the course of like the last 3 seasons, the 91-point year, they were 3rd in goals, but they were near the bottom in goals allowed. They were actually, I believe, a negative goals net wise, and goaltending stunk. A lot of odd man rushes. It was chance for chance. We get our chance, you get your chance.
Yep.
And then the next year they kind of overcorrected it. They were better at not allowing goals, but they couldn't score much. And last year with Lindy, they kind of find the score. They found their scoring touch again. They were near the top 10 in goals, but defensively they were off. They have a lot of skill, but not a lot of production. The hope this year with retaining Byram and having Power an extra year and making some of the moves for Kesselring and Timmins was that you were going to get better defensively. Yeah. And we're starting to see those results right now. They're playing much better defensively. They have 4 guys on this team right now that I expect solid play on almost a nightly basis, even if Power is a little bit inconsistent. Their penalty kill has been incredible this season, which is a huge reason for their improvement. Mm-hmm. And then if you're going to say offensively, is there anybody that really stands out to you or players that are really making a difference? What I would say is, number one, Josh Norris makes a huge difference for this team.
Oh, yeah.
I said it before the season. If healthy, Norris will get this team right in contention for a playoff spot. And I understand he's made of glass. He's an injury risk, and people put the injury prone label on him. I don't really believe in injury prone. I believe sports are physical and things happen. And sometimes people are more durable and others aren't. And unfortunately, Norris has had bad luck, but that doesn't mean he's going to suddenly tomorrow trip over a stick and be out for the year. Now he could, but like Norris is a huge piece. He's an elite finisher. And
it makes the Sabres forward line so deeper too.
Mm-hmm. In the beginning of the year, they wanted to do Norris with Thompson and Benson. And I like that line a lot, but it didn't spread out enough of the scoring down. I was intrigued by it, but now that Thompson's back at center and Norris is at center and McLeod is in his rightful spot as number 3 center, you got 3 lines with scoring capability. And I got to give credit to Josh Doan. Like, that guy is pretty.
Look at the Sabres' first line.
Playing with Thompson is making a difference. And it's funny because now that you got Doan elevating guys and him pairing well with Thompson, it allows you to put Krebs temporarily on the first line. And it's what's interesting is Krebs theoretically shouldn't be anywhere near a first line, but the way he's playing is actually helping the first line because he's added some grit. Don't add some grit. Thompson finishes, but now that you have Norris on the second line, that brings skill down. Tuck moves down the lineup, and then you get guys in the rightful spots. And gonna say his name quietly. No, who's also playing kind of decently lately? Jack Quinn.
That line's been awesome.
People don't want to talk about Jack Quinn, but he's gone from like a -11 to he's like a -3 right now. Like, he's on pace for like a 45-point season. Jack Quinn is playing great. And then the last thing, I don't want to take every single point because I know Carson's going to spend some time on Byram, but
we're going to be talking about Jacob Bryce and Zach Metza.
We're at the point of the year now where, as great as Zucker is, we're like, what do you do when Zucker comes back? Because I don't want to break up the Dunn, Malenstein, Greenway line. And if you put Zucker in, Noah Ostlund, another guy that's playing amazing.
Don't touch him.
It's all hitting at the right time, and I don't really want to mess with it. I don't want I love the way this team is playing. If they're gonna mess something up, I'd rather them lose before they change things.
Yes.
Let this play out, and then if they lose a couple games in a row, okay, well, we'll mix some things up. But don't rush to change this.
Well, I think Zucker was supposed to come back last game, or the talk was he could have. And I was under the impression he wasn't.
I think they're going to. I think you have to
wait. Don't touch him.
Noah Ostlund, you can't. The only person you could take
4 goals in his 8 games back.
Yeah, Noah Ostlund needs to be a regular on this team going
forward. He's done eating garbage plates. Never again.
And it's funny because Roseanne was playing great early in the year, and now I have no clue how Roseanne will see ice time unless there's other like injury. Like this is what you want to see out of a team. I know I've gone on and on and on. But you got 3 lines that can put the puck in the net. You have a 4th line that forechecks, that works hard, that makes life miserable for the other team. You have 2 pairs of defense that are high skill, high talent. And then you got a 3rd pair that can at least buy you 15 minutes. And you got goalies stepping up, given the opportunity. Now, do I expect this all to just continue going this way the rest of the season? No way in hell. Like, there's going to be adversity. Things are going to fall apart at some point, and they're going to have to make adjustments at some point. But the metrics say this isn't a fluke. And that is encouraging because this might be the first time in 10 years where the metrics actually over 10 years, probably since they made the playoffs last, where the metrics are actually like, you know what? I actually think the Buffalo Sabres are legitimate.
And they match the eye test too, where the metrics and the winning are actually happening. It's not just, it could happen. But Carson, who do you think is, I know we got 1,000 players left to talk about, but who's on your list?
I could really go through the whole lineup right now and tell 100%. Everybody you're doing a great job, keep it up. But to your guys' point, yeah, like they got to keep the lineup how it is right now. Zucker, he can wait a minute, get healthy, let the boys lose 1 or 2 games in a row, and then we'll find a way. And that'll be a problem for next week or whenever we lose again.
Good problem to have.
Maybe never, since we're never losing again. But anyway, guys who who's really stood out to me as of late. I mean, Bo Byram. I guess that's the big name that Bundt gave me the easy layup for. I put out a tweet today. His last 5 games, listen to this. Leads the team in goals and points in the last 5 games, right? 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Plus 11. That is absurd. I guess plus minus, it's kind of wonky sometimes, but that's unheard of numbers, and he's averaging over 24 minutes a night as well. Like, the guy is stepping up right now. Like, absolute beast right now, night in, night out. I still think he's got one of the best shots in the league as far as a defenseman's concerned. Just an absolute athlete. When he kind of plays that rover type and he joins the rush, like, this guy is just incredibly talented on the offensive side of the puck. And just without him, you look at the game against Ottawa the other night. Without him, I get the overtime goal is a little bit fluky, and one Allmark probably is going to have more times than not. But still, like, the guy's just been absolute lights out. I don't think they even come close to winning 10 games without him. Another guy that we talked about a little bit, Peyton Krebs, 6 points in his last 8 games, rocking that first line role. You love to see it. Him and Tage on the same line. At first, when I saw it, whatever it was, like 2 weeks ago, and they tried that out with him as a top line center, I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting in some trouble here. But it's really worked out. I mean, the chemistry's really, really solid. They play well with one another. And then Alex Lyon, I get the dude just got hurt, but you want to talk about timely saves. The guy has been electric. He's won, I think, his like last 6 or 7 starts. He's truly been tremendous. And then I guess we talked about Osland as well. And the last guy I want to bring up is Zach Metza, a guy whose name doesn't get talked about a lot, but that's a really good thing for a guy who's a 7th defenseman, or in his case, somebody who just started to play in the NHL this year a little bit. He's got 10 games played. Another guy. He is a +7, and he only plays $9.56 a night. Like, he's making an impact one way or another. He's not hurting your team. He's not giving the puck away at costly moments. But instead he's helping your team. And your 7th defenseman who comes in, he rotates with Bryson. That's not going to be a guy you're going to rely on by any means, but he's a guy that, can insert some fresh legs, and especially coming off a back-to-back. When you need him for some 5-on-5 time and that third pair, he can help you out there too. Great stat there by John. Benton's just an absolute dog through and through. But Zach Metza, a guy I've been impressed with, under the radar guy. He's been lighting up Rochester the past few years, specifically offensively. But he's just really played a solid and refined game, I thought, in the 10 minutes a night that he plays throughout 10 games so far.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Bunty. I know.
I was going to say, you know what I love about this? We didn't mention Tage Thompson. We didn't mention Alex Stuck. And I know you just brought up Benson, but we didn't talk about Benson. Why? Because that's what we expect from those guys.
Yes.
They're playing to their standard. And I know there's some comments here about Quinn is a turnover machine. Like, we got to look at Quinn for what he is now and not what we projected him to be 2-3 years ago. Like, Quinn is never going to probably be the guy that we all wanted him to be 2-3 years ago. But going into the season, the expectations were pretty low. And if Quinn is going to be on your third line or second line, a middle 6 guy, and he's going to get you between 40 to 50 points and get you 15 to 20 goals and be close to an even plus minus, That is productive at the end of the day. Like, that is not bad hockey. That is good hockey for what you want out of him. So, like, that's the whole point of it. Like, your third line is third line caliber guys are Jack Quinn, Ryan McLeod. Those are guys that are pacing 40 plus points, 45 points, and they're playing within themselves. Mm-hmm. That is a good sign, because your top line guys are doing what they need to do. Your second line guys are giving you production that you expect out of second line guys. The whole problem with the Sabres the last 3 years, really, when you break it down, was that outside of Thompson and Tuck, and occasionally Skinner, if you go back far enough, there was too many guys out of position where they're like, well, if these young kids that are 21, 22 years old can mature really quickly and get to that point where they're 60, 70 points, they can make it on our second line. But you're like, they're not ready to be on the second line. So there was too much like counting on Dylan Cousins and JJ Peterka to carry the team. Now it's a different feeling. Like, so yes, Noah Ostlund is playing on the second line that often going forward. But you know what they're doing? They're pairing him with Josh Norris, and he's playing with Tuck at times. So they're letting a kid learn on the fly by playing with very good, respected NHL players, hence making him adjust to the game quicker. Instead of putting a kid with two other kids and saying, guys, you're just going to have to step it up and adjust to this right on the fly. Now, I know for a short, brief period of time when they were dealing with injuries, they had Roseanne and Ostlund playing together a little bit, but that was a little bit more out of necessity and trying to get them some comfort level early on with some chemistry, guys that they were used to playing with. But the point of it is, we talked years ago when the fourth line was guys like Girgensons and Okposo about how Girgensons is a decent player, and Okposo at one point in time was a good player, but they didn't bring enough. It wasn't a good enough fourth line. They are playing within themselves. They have a purpose. And as long as they keep doing what their jobs are and not trying to be more than what they are, they're going to keep being successful, Carson.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, Gates. I didn't know which Carson was referencing there. But, yeah, like as long as computer's getting a little low here on battery. As long as they continue to play in their style of game, which so far this year they've slowed down a little bit off the rush, but that's, I think, a product of schematically how they're trying to play. Down low, the cycle game through this 10-game win streak has been just phenomenal, especially I think with that fourth line. You look at Malenstein, the guy is working his tail off every single night. Him and Greenway, Dunn, those guys they're a difficult when. Okay, so to use a Kevin Adams line, playing difficult or being difficult to play against, that line I think embodies that. And I think that's something that any GM, any coach is going to want to have guys who make it difficult for the other team, obviously. But you go out there, like I feel the energy that those guys bring. They're moving their feet. They're putting you into the boards every single time you're out there. You can hear the boards crunch, and they're also generating a little bit too. I mean, on the offensive side,
good chances. Yes,
it reminds me a little bit of the prime log line from a few years ago with Larson, Okposo, Girgensons, back when they had that like 20-game insanity run. But yeah, everybody's contributing right now. Obviously, I think that's going to slow up a little bit at some point during the rest of the year. Things are going to get frozen a little bit. You're going to face some adversity. Things will dry up. But it's all about consistency. Right now, the team's playing lights out. They're playing well when it matters most in crunch time in the second and third period. And they've shown at times if they want to park the bus, have fun scoring, because as long as their goalie's playing hot, they've been playing good structurally around them. And then they can score through transition games still, which is definitely something that I think reflects their talent that they still have. But at the same time, they're working, they're doing the little things right, and it's translated to the win column. Yeah, and it's what we're talking about here, I think, brings back to some comments I saw earlier. Gar on Kesselring, there's been nothing. He did not skate today in Columbus. From what I was just reading online, nothing post-game about him. I did block a shot toward the end. Or no, he went in the boards weird, sorry. Yeah. Yep. But he's the guy I do want to talk about for stepping up, because one of our biggest talking points this summer, guys, was the JJ Peterka trade, and it's going to be a success for the Sabres if they can get Owen Power to that next level.
And since Kesselring's come back from, his second injury, with his time with the Sabres, we have seen, Owen Power's game improve. We've seen Michael Kessering be the defenseman that we all kind of envisioned a bit, where, he's a net positive when he's on the ice, and it's not, oh, this is bad and scary. In the last couple of games, we've seen him do that. He's been getting more minutes. I mean, the jump in Power's game, while it's not, I think where fans would have wished he'd be at right now a couple of years ago, he has taken massive jumps, I think, in the past month or so. In his game, I think his D zone has gotten a lot better. And just the whole lineup too. And you guys talked about the fourth line. The thing that's most exciting is, Carson, you talked about them generating chances. I feel like they've been doing that. They're doing it in ways they're getting in front. They're causing chaos. And they're also the reason the Sabres have one of the best PKs in the league too. They're always blocking shots, whether it's 5-on-4 or 5-on-5. When Greenway inserted back in the lineup, I was not for that. I thought he looked slow. He was not, the player that we saw last years ago after his hernia surgeries. Recently, though, he has really grown on me. He's blocking shots. He's doing the things he has to do. He doesn't have that jump that we once saw, but he's finding ways to stay in the lineup, and that's encouraging. And the last guy I want to talk about, too, is Östlund. He got sent down to Rochester, towards the end of Kevin M's tenure, and we had that Lindy Ruff presser where he was like, yeah, I don't know why he got sent down, basically. He's playing a great game, and since he's been recalled, 4 goals in those 8 games. He's been a huge addition to this team. And the reason they're middle 6 right now has been the backbone of their team. And the final point I want to make on that, every year we've had to rely, exactly, Gar, we've had to rely on stacking the first line with Tage Thompson to carry the Sabres to a win. Right now, I mean, Tage scored 2 goals last night to seal the win. For most of the stretch, the Sabres have been carried by their middle 6 producing. We're seeing those guys step up. We're seeing it doesn't have to fall on one guy's shoulders. It's really been everyone's kind of stepping up right now for the team. If Tage is having a great night, the Sabres still have a chance to win. We've never been able to say that before because it's really been, Tage, you're going to have to play incredible tonight or, it's going to be a loss in the books. I think the same thing goes for Dahlin as well, where, now they're able to rely on Owen Power, Bowen Byron, Matthias Samuelsson. Those guys are stepping up. It's been great news as well. Because of this win streak, we've seen the Sabres go from last in the East to second in a wild card spot. The P word has been being floating around a lot of, is playoffs a possibility? You look at what Vegas has. It's basically a coin flip, whether you're looking traditional Vegas or like a poly market. It's all around a 50-50 right now for the Sabres to end the playoff drought. 1, what are your thoughts on that? And 2, what is going to have to happen in your mind for those thoughts to continue, for the idea of this to actually come to fruition?
So playoffs is always the buzzword going into a season when you're talking about a team with a 14-game playoff drought. What I find interesting right now is a lot of those models that now have them around 50%, some slightly higher, some slightly lower. Many of those models had them at 20% or 10% 2-3 weeks ago. So that's an astronomical increase in just a short period of time. But there were other models that had the Sabres at a higher percentage before this 10-game winning streak started than some of the ones that we just addressed. And I've seen a few models that have the Sabres as high as the upper 60s now for playoff probability. And I know Carson disagreed with me earlier on this, Gatesy, about could they win a playoff series or should we shift our expectation to a playoff series? There's models out there now that give them a 24-25% chance of winning a first-round series.
Was that Money Puck today?
That was Money Puck. And Money Puck has been one of the more conservative models as far as Sabres' chances. There's other models that give them a 30+% chance, 35% chance of winning a playoff series. And what we have to understand is this, when breaking down probability and the likelihood of them making it. They're on a 10-game winning streak. That's great. They're in the number 2 wildcard spot right now. That's awesome. But it's a very bunched up Eastern Conference. So they're going to have a lot of competition for only a few spots available. So we're going to have a lot better idea in the next 20 games, the likelihood of them actually making it or not. Because a 10-game winning streak is not sustainable. You're eventually going to fall back to the mean at some point. And then what are you at that point? Are you going to keep winning? Are you going to lose? Are you going to be somewhere in the middle? Now, what I will say is, I know you said earlier, Carson, that there were some teams that you couldn't discount because what if they got hot? I do believe there are certain teams that you can discount right now based on what the metrics are pointing. The Columbus Blue Jackets do not appear to be a team that will get hot at some point later this season. I would say the Boston Bruins are a team that it's very likely they're going to go downwards.
They've overperformed to this point.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The New York Rangers do not appear to be a team that will be able to figure things out. I would also make an argument, hit or miss on Pittsburgh. I don't know yet.
I'm out on Pittsburgh.
I don't know.
They got hot quick and they've been downhill.
Pittsburgh seems a little bit like Boston. They overachieved early, and I could see them taking a drop. So you go beyond those teams. The Islanders are a team that's getting carried by their goaltending right now. Their metrics are not very sharp. They're really getting carried by goaltending.
Dave.
Now, Ottawa's an interesting team because the Senators have nice metrics, but it hasn't translated into winning and losing. So I think Ottawa could be a team that you're competing with. The Devils are very interesting because it just was a couple years ago when they had Lindy, where they looked like they were primed to be one of the best teams in hockey. And now you look at the Devils, and everybody in Jersey wanted to blame Lindy for all of their problems. And turns out it wasn't just Lindy. Maybe it was roster construction.
They're a minus 11 goal differential, which is second worst in the Eastern
I don't
Conference.
have a lot of faith in the Devils at the current moment, but I think the Devils and Senators are two teams that are going to be in the picture. Then you move on to another team like the Flyers. The Flyers, they seem to be overperforming, but you can't discount them. They've been decent. So the Flyers, the Devils, the Sens are teams that I think are going to be in that conversation. I'm not looking at the standings right now. The Capitals, obviously, they're in contention for the spot. And then when you look at division, I think what I find interesting is I don't believe the Florida Panthers are a Stanley Cup contender this year.
No.
But I believe the Panthers are going to find a way to still make it into 100%. The playoffs at the end of the day. So I'm assuming they're one of the spots. I'm assuming Tampa Bay is one of the spots, which then really gets you down to Detroit and Montreal. And Detroit's a really interesting team because they're having a great season by their standards right now. They're atop the division. But when you think about it, only 5 points up on Buffalo, and the Sabres have 2 games on hand. And the metrics don't think Detroit's incredible by any means. I could see them being a team that falls. Montreal, they're pretty close to the Sabres overall. Now, they owned Buffalo last year. I believe 3 games between those two teams in January. That's going to go a long way to determining standings. And if the Sabres can get the upper hand against the Canadiens, I do think there's a possibility. I'm not going to say it's a great possibility. The Sabres could finish in the top 3 in the Atlantic, and we might not even be talking about a wild card spot to where maybe we're talking about them finishing and taking on a team like Tampa or Montreal or Ottawa or somebody else in the first round, depending on how things play out. And if you can get a perfect world where, assuming you're not going to win the division, which that seems no chance, I guess no chance, it could happen, but it doesn't seem likely. If you finish in a 2-3 matchup and you get somehow Montreal or Detroit, like that's a 50-50 playoff series. So it's going to be interesting. I would say if you did a coin flip right now, 50-50 seems about right.
Yep.
But a lot can change. And at this point, I kept saying when they got to 6 wins, try to make it 7 or 8. When they get to 8, try to get to 9 or 10. take this as far as you can take it, and then hopefully you get that separation a little bit to where if you do sustain a 2-3 game losing streak, you can recover from it and not be in panic mode. But if anything, this team should now have the confidence that going forward, there's no reason for them not to believe in themselves and what
100%. Yeah.
Well, they're getting that belief too quickly, Carson, from like the other coach. And like Gar said, the Stars last night, we heard Jim Montgomery before the Blues game, talk about the team's relentlessness, their energy. So for a team that we've talked about earlier in the show that kind of needed that boost from Jarmo Kekalainen and, that change of culture and that belief in themselves, not only does it feel like they're getting that from Jarmo, whether that's the direction he went or, I like the theory that, if you don't play well, we're bringing in John Tortorella and you're all going to hate your lives. Whether it be, they have that confidence in themselves, and they're also hearing it now from the other teams they're playing. It's not, we're playing Buffalo, it's point night. It feels like they're getting that confidence and kind of going from there. But Carson, what are your thoughts on the playoffs right now for the Blue and Gold?
Too early, right? We're not even halfway through the point of the season.
Exactly.
Here's where I stand, right? Like, this is great, and that's all fine and dandy. Team a few years ago won 10 games in a row early in the year. The advanced metrics said one thing compared to this team, right? I get they're two separate teams. Yep. It ultimately falls apart. Like, it's all about consistency. And I know this is going to sound a little bit funny, but if I was Lindy Ruff right now, I would tell the boys, listen, forget the standings right now. We're not even looking at the standings. There's too much time left in the season. Once we start focusing on other games and other people at hand, that's when you start to eliminate the focus on yourselves. You have to be able to control the controllables. I say this all the time when I talk about Bills football. Mm-hmm. Control the controllables, play your game. You can only play one game at a time. You cannot control what happens in Florida when they're hosting the Montreal Canadiens. Like, those games are irrelevant, I think, at this point in time. Just go out, play, do your thing, focus on yourself. And I think something that's going to really start to pick up here now that we're in the new year is what is Jarmo Kekalainen going to do come trade deadline? Because if you look at what happened a few years ago when the Sabres were on a heater 91-point year, hey, they're youthful. If you make a trade, you're kind of blocking the path for some of these guys. But at the same time, you might be getting yourself over the hump and getting in. I don't think Jarmo is going to shy away from maybe trading guys who have been here for a minute. For example, this is just pure speculation. I don't know anything. Jack Quinn is possibly a guy who I could see getting moved. Like, maybe a guy like Greenway. They might shake things up in the bottom six. A defenseman could be possible as well, although they probably do like their defense group right now. It seems like the three goalie situation when all three are healthy. We'll have to see what the deal is with Lyon with his injury in the next coming weeks. Mm-hmm. But somebody's going to get moved there. Like, things are going to be moving around. I think Jarmo's going to be aggressive. If this team is able to play, I don't know, let's say a 550 points percentage here into the deadline, and they are, let's say, within 2 points, I think he's going to be putting a lot of those poker chips in, and he's going to roll the dice. He's an aggressive guy. And to me, that's just – I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the deadline. I think right now that's my bigger focus, because those 20 games after the deadline with what you have there, I think are some of your most crucial games, where then all of a sudden it does turn to, okay, now we do have to start focusing on the standings, because those games are starting to impact us a little bit. We at least have to be self-aware. Way too early in the season for me to be talking about whether or not whether or not they're going to be winning a playoff series. I just want to make it in first.
We're not saying they're going to win a playoff.
No, I get what you're saying, but like, I don't want to get carried away with things here. I just feel like,
but you have to understand it when you're talking about a team that hasn't made it in 14 years. Like, I'm not saying that inside the locker room the players are looking at.
No. I'm not saying you are saying that.
Yeah, like there's no way in hell, or at least there should be no way in hell, that the players are looking at the standings on a daily basis, being like, well, Florida won, now we got to win, or like pressure's on us. Like, there's no chance. Like, I wouldn't even start worrying about that type of stuff until you're falling like 7-8 points back, or you're at like the 60 game mark of the season where you got 22 left to go, and you got to start figuring out what do we have to do down the stretch to make it. But the point of it is, if you look at the probabilities, you look at the metrics, we're in some, I don't want to say uncharted territory, because 2 years ago they had 84 points, and theoretically they were technically still in it if they pulled a heater off like they just are currently in the middle of right now. And then 3 years ago they missed it by 1 point. But I think the difference at the current moment is that there is the belief that the eye test is getting supported by the metrics, which is opening up reasons to be optimistic. We're talking about a division that over the last rounded decade, not a decade exactly, has been dominated by the same few teams. It's been the Florida Panthers going to the Cup 3 straight years. It was the Lightning going to the Cup 3 years in a row before that. And then you even had the Montreal randomly getting to a Cup during the COVID year. And you had Toronto simultaneously with Austin Matthews and Nylander and Marner. Just, they were a force. And Boston was always good. The reason I think there's optimism right now is the Sabres finally seem to have something that looks good on paper, looks good on the ice, and Toronto has taken a big step back. Yeah. Florida, while they're good, it looks like maybe they finally have gotten a little bit of a hangover due to injuries and also going to the Cup 3 years in a row. That's a long stretch. It's hard to sustain that. And while Detroit and Montreal and Ottawa are all decent teams, none of those teams are world beaters. So for the first time in forever, outside of Tampa, which has been good, but not even to Tampa's old standards, it looks like there's an opening. And I know it's up to the Sabres to take advantage of the opening, but at this point in time, the numbers say it's there for the taking. And that thought hasn't really existed in previous years. Like, even if the Sabres would have made it the year that they had 91 points, nobody would have expected them to make a run to the Cup finals like what Florida did. And there was a lot of things that were unsustainable about that group. What I like right now, and I kind of said it earlier, is they're finding ways to hold on to leads. That's a sign of maturing. And it's not the same way every night. In the past, it would be, let's try to hold on. Like, let's get defensive. Let's try to take less chances up the ice, because if we go for a 2-on-1 and we turn over, then it's going to be 2-on-1 in the back of the net. But now you're seeing a subtle confidence where, because they believe in their forecheck and they believe in their defenders behind, it's a cautiously aggressive brand of hockey where we're going to let our fourth line go out there, wear out your team, even when it's late, so you guys don't have the juice to counterpunch us. And it's up 3-1, but still going for a rush and letting Tage snipe it to put the game away to make it 4-1. So I believe that's a lot of this team is finding ways to win games when in the past they found ways to lose games. And to me, in hockey, that's a big part of maturing and development. And I've always stated that I thought this team had individual talent, but that they didn't know how to play as a collective unit. And like I said, this is only a 10-game sample size. It's 1/8 of the season. A lot can change, and they could still fall apart after this. I hope not. I don't expect them to. But I believe there is a much better identity or sense of identity with this group, to where I said it earlier, they're playing within themselves. And as long as they keep doing the smart little things, it's going to lead to more sustained success.
Yeah, and for me, that's the exciting part, Bunty. You talked about them taking chances. At the beginning of the win streak, we didn't see that at all in the third period. The first game of the win streak, when they played Edmonton, they got outshot in the third period 12-6. The second game in the road trip in the win streak, they played Vancouver. They got outshot by the terrible Vancouver Canucks 12-2. We're seeing a Sabres team now that's playing the Dallas Stars with a 2-1 lead going in the third period and scoring 2 goals. They're taking their chances. They're out shooting the Stars and dominating them on, pretty much every facet. And we're, like you said, we're seeing a team now going for wins instead of, hanging on to survive. I think that for me has been the biggest change of this win streak is, we've seen throughout the course of the Sabres have had the lead going into the third. They've been tied going into the third. For a good chunk of it, they've been just surviving. But the past 3 games especially, they are trying to win games now, which I think is a big indicator of, one, the confidence they have in themselves. They're not afraid of how they're playing. We're seeing, the videos in the post game afterward in the room, like that confidence and energy is there in a way we haven't seen before. and they keep on rolling. And this is the most exciting thing from that. And I do want to bring up a point, something we haven't talked about tonight. We've talked about every other show, really in depth, has been the Sabres goaltending. I think that's always been the talking point when the things are bad is, they need better goaltending. They had Alex Lyon carry them at the start of the season, making some saves. We had a rough stretch in the middle where we couldn't get saves from, Lyon, UPL, Ellis for a stretch. And then, they put Alex Lyon back in. He was gaining confidence. He's such a steady influence that helped the team get better. We're seeing UPL come in net now, where if he gives up a goal in the first period, he shuts the door after that. This past 2 games, we've seen that. We're seeing the goaltending be an asset for the Sabres in a way we haven't in a long time. And it's, again, everything coming together from the goaltending, the defense, the forwards. It's all there. And that's why the Sabres are now a pick'em for a playoff spot, which is, it's obviously early to talk about, but it is so exciting to say these things, guys. Like, from where we were conversationally like 2 weeks ago, it is just a complete night and day difference of 0-3 on a Western road trip where you haven't won a road game in regulation in 255 days to a 10-game win streak. It's awesome to see, too, before we go to the next point, of just how the city is reacting. How we always say, Buffalo's a hockey town. They love the Sabres, but they just haven't had that feeling. You see it there. I'm seeing it online, and they're going to play Columbus, on the 3rd on Saturday. If they win that game and have the chance for a 12-game win streak coming back home in the KeyBank Center, that place is going to be absolutely electric. And before I kick it to you, Bunty, on next stuff, I want to go through some comments. Yeah, Norris, without saying, the team is so much better with him there, the depth he brings. And where does Zucker slot in? Krebs has been great in that first line. It's like you got to put Zucker there, or, is Quinn the odd man out? It's an interesting thing that I think you're just going to hope it's going to figure itself out when you lose your next game, and keep him healthy. And lineup is nervous. He's been such a big, like I said, calming influence. Every time he's in, I don't feel nervous. I'm getting that way now with UPL, which is a scary thought. And yeah, Steve, good to see you again. Yeah, I think Bunty talked about it. Very different win streaks between now and then. And the different team now between the start of this win streak and where we're at now. I guess my question for you, Bunty, what is next? What do you want to see next from this team? Obviously, they play on Saturday against the Columbus team that's in last in the Eastern Conference. What do you want to see from Sabres then, and what do you want to see from players?
I just want to see them keep up the intensity on a game-by-game basis. I don't need to see anything different than what I'm currently seeing. They're working hard. They're outworking their opponents right now.
Yes,
that is 100% clear. But the thing that's encouraging is that you go on the road in Dallas against a team that has really given you trouble over the years.
Great team.
Very talented Stars roster. And you're on a 9-game winning streak. They're not taking you for granted in that game. They come out, they punch you in the mouth 15 seconds into the game. They score, they take a 1-0 lead. They're hoping you fold after that moment. And the Sabres just kept at it. And the first period, I could have qualified that as a disappointing period, as in they outplayed the Stars, but they're down 1-0. They weren't able to finish. But the Sabres in past years, they might have hung their heads, but they kept attacking. They eventually get a wonderful goal by Doan, and they build off of it. And that's kind of the thing I just want to keep seeing out of them is there's been a few moments where they've fallen behind a goal, but they keep battling. And normally they take control of the game in those moments. There's been a few times where in the third period or a second period, maybe they have the lead and they've gotten a little loose. And I'm like, okay, get a little bit more structure, compose yourself, figure things out. But that's been few and far between during this streak. So honestly, I'm not even worried about matchup to matchup going forward. It's more focus on yourself. Hockey is one of those games where anything can happen on a nightly basis. It's much different than football, where if you're a run-heavy team or a pass-heavy team or a lighter or heavier team, like there's different ways of playing. Like, yes, there's going to be different styles, and some teams are going to be quicker, other teams are going to be more composed, and some teams are going to be a little more physical. But I think what I'm seeing out of the Sabres that I like right now is we're seeing a little bit of grit from certain guys, and we're seeing the skill guys focus on doing their job, finish, and get things done. And I just want them to keep battling, because what I have kind of seen is as long as they work hard, they should have a chance at getting 2 points on any given night. And there was far too many games over the last 2 years where you would go into the game and you could count this team out. And sometimes it was against a better opponent like the Carolina Hurricanes or a top-tier team like the Colorado Avalanche, where you just knew even if they got out to a 3-0 lead, then the other team was going to put it on and the Sabres would be praying to hold on. And then there was other games where they would play a bottom feeder and you didn't trust the Sabres were going to bring it, that they were just going to try to coast to an easy win. And if anything has happened in recent times, I believe that they now have it in them that if we work hard, if we do what we're being taught to do, we can end the night with 2 points. And that's what we're going to have to do. We can't take you for granted. And we're not going to just assume somebody else is going to bring it to us. So I think it's all a mentality thing. And I know that's oversimplifying it because they are professional athletes and they are trying on a game-by-game basis. But all I want them to do is keep that same mentality going forward. And if they do, I believe this team has every chance of snapping their drought. Not going to predict it. I'm not going to do any silly predictions right now. But I think this team is going to be in it until the end of the season.
Say for me, just keep your foot on the gas, right? Like you're playing a confident style of game right now with every single post-game video that they send out. Like I'm either smiling or laughing at it because it just seems like they're playing for the love of the game right now. Like the boys you could see them collectively getting a little more, the battle scars are building here. They're getting closer with one another. And the group's playing for one another. I think that's an extremely important thing. Like, I don't want to see Jordan Greenway, and this is just hypothetically doesn't do this, but like, I don't want to see Jordan Greenway try to go coast to coast. Like, that's not your style. Just play within yourself. The bottom six has done a tremendous job lately, like we've touched on with Malin Goat. The fourth liners just doing their work in the corners. Top guys have been performing. They've had timely moments like Thompson's 2 goals last night. So just continue to keep your foot on the gas. Like there's so much time left in the season just because you have a little taste of winning. Like that's not everything. So to me, I'd love to see that. I said last night going into it, if they can beat Dallas, like, man, that's kind of a statement. Like Dallas is legit. They're behind Colorado in the Western Conference. They haven't lost by 3 or more goals since like December 12th to Florida at home, which is kind of crazy to me. So like that's a big time win. The way that they did it, was extremely, extremely impressive to me. And if they can just keep their foot on the pedal here, you look at the schedule coming up for them as well. It's favorable right now. Like the Blue Jackets, like I know Bunch talked on like it's weird going game to game, but still, like you look at it as what it is. Blue Jackets, and then you have the Canucks. You return home to play the Canucks, which is they've been fading very fast, and the Rangers and then the Ducks. The Ducks are a team under Joel Quenneville this year who've really taken that next step. But again, they're more of a team that I feel meets well with the Sabres. Like that's going to be a fun game to watch. A lot of talent on both squads. And then the Panthers after that at home. And that's kind of a big game against teams who you're fighting with. So all that combined, if they just continue to bring it, focus on themselves, like you never know how this is going to turn out. But right now you're playing an extremely confident brand and style of hockey. If you can continue to bring that to each game, you're going to give yourself a chance night in, night out to bring home 2 points.
Definitely. And that's the thing, Carson. You brought up the post-game videos where they're giving out like the championship belt, which I thought would be a major curse to this organization, getting rid of the saber. Like that sword was cool. But hand up, that actually did nothing for the on-ice play. That's who could have thought that. But yeah, every time they pass it out, the guy gives a speech and it's always just, let's keep rolling. It feels like they understand they're in a good groove right now. They're playing well. We've seen Sabres team before when they find success, they change how they're playing and, it starts to crumble apart and they get away from their good details. It feels like now they're somehow realizing, oh, this is working. We're going to continue to do this. They're building on their good play. We're seeing, yes, the growth in over the course of the season, but just this win streak alone, it's a totally different team than what we saw, game one in Edmonton till now. The confidence, the play, the tenacity, everything's there. And I'm still just shocked that, the things Jarmo said came to fruition so soon. We haven't seen a move made. We've seen, moves in the managerial side of things with the assistant, associate general managers, but we're seeing, the same players play totally different. And yeah, Lindy knows what he's doing, and that's a good thing to see, as someone who grew up watching Lindy Ruff coach teams and, seeing them get so close but not be able to do it, him coming back. And I thought it'd be a major stain on, his name in, talking about the Sabres is, yeah, he came back, but the team somehow got worse after everything. But before I talk final thoughts, guys, there's a couple questions here. Just Alex talk. That's kind of been a talk of what's going to happen now that Jarmo's here. Will, one, do you think Tuck will be moved? And two, do you want him to? And do you have a return you'd want? Just a general, like, would you want kind of a replacement forward? And even two, one quick thing. I think all the talk up until a couple weeks ago was the Sabres are basically going to be pseudo sellers at the deadline, like trades like we've seen for, a JJ Peterka, where they're bringing in, younger pieces, or, they're bringing in guys who maybe aren't to that level to kind of fill out like a Bowen Byram or an Alex Tuck. Now it kind of feels like the Sabres are could be buyers at this point. But Bunty, I do want to hear your thoughts too on the Alex Tuck thing, because I know you're pretty locked in with the state of Mr. Tuck.
Yeah, before the season, I thought they should extend him.
Mm-hmm.
As the season went on, they were struggling. Then it went to, well, maybe probably should move on from him. Your season's going nowhere. You might be out of it. Where you gaining? You're nowhere close to where you need to be. Then you win 10 in a row. You feel pretty good about things, and you don't want to mess with the mojo inside the locker room. I think at this point you got to try to extend him. Yeah. And you got to keep it going. It's interesting. There were talks, rumors that they do plan on talking soon, and that January could be a pivotal month. And there's a belief that Kekalainen is willing to be a little bit more aggressive at getting this done than what Kevyn Adams was. And I hate to say this because it feels like you're piling on the guy. But isn't that enough to just tell you why the players didn't buy into Kevyn Adams as their general manager? Like, that's it in a nutshell. And I know Adams rewarded guys like Tage Thompson and Dahlin and Power and Cousins and
even like Okposo and Reinhardt and Eichel.
So it's not saying that Adams hasn't given people extensions and contracts, but here you have a guy that was the major comeback part of a deal in which you traded Jack Eichel away, the major return, and he's excited about coming to Buffalo. He is from Syracuse, and I know everybody across the NHL says he's a hometown kid. That's poor geography skills on most of them.
Yeah, he's from the South Towns, Bunty, of course.
Yep, it's only about 2.5 hours.
Neighbors.
It's a 2.5 hour drive to school. But like, this is a guy that embraced the city and was excited to come here when there weren't really many people. And I know there's been times this season where we've questioned his effort or his want to on the ice. But at the end of the day, his metrics are still pretty good. 32 points in 38 games. He has 2 36-goal seasons in the last 3 years. He's playing an important role on your team right now. I don't think Alex Tuck is an $11 million a year guy. I would even say I don't think he's a $10 million a year guy. But who are you getting back that will be the equivalent to that? You're not getting anybody back right away that's going to replace that type of production. And you're a team that is seemingly close to taking a leap and a jump. Those are the teams that want to be trying to acquire players like Alex Tuck, not giving up a player like Tuck. And if say this was the Sabres and they end up collapsing down the stretch and they miss it a 15th straight year and they're nowhere closer and they keep sputtering, I would say, okay, no reason to do it. But if you make the argument that you think this team can make the playoffs with Tuck and be a playoff team the next 2 to 3 years going forward, I think then you have to absolutely do what it takes to get it done, because while $11 million seems steep of a price right now, and you are worried if you sign him to an extended deal, like a 7-8 year contract, that you're not going to get the value back. The fact of it is 7-8 years from now, that $10-11 million is not going to have the same value that it has today. So it's not going to kill you as much as you believe it might. It could definitely hurt you. But if you're a good team and you're winning the next 3-4 years, you're not going to worry about 6-7 years down the line, because you had good years in front of you. So it sounds like the money is going to be somewhere a little bit under $11 million. If they can lock him up 10.5, 10.75, I'm willing to go to 11 if necessary. I'm okay with it. And I think that would be another added boost of morale to this roster, to this lineup, and especially for the young guys. We talked about earlier how Osland is playing with guys like Norris and Tuck at times. That's something that's benefiting this team. I don't want to go back in a situation where you have Osland and then suddenly you're putting Roseanne on the second line because you just traded Tuck away, and then you're relying on two young kids to try to get the chemistry to get you over the hump. So maybe, and I'll wrap it up by saying this. I think that was part of the problem that always plagued Kevin Adams as a general manager, because the whole issue he had supposedly with giving Tuck the $10 million plus was he was worried about how is he going to re-sign Josh Doan, and then of course I'm blanking right now.
Kesselring's due and
Benson and Doan. And my reply back to that is, you know what it makes easier to sign guys? Winning hockey and giving them a reason to want to be around. And it shows that Kevin Adams had an analytical side to him, which is good. He understands that he needs money and that his owner limits him theoretically at times, and that he needs to be smart with how he spends his money. But it also shows that he never, which is surprising as a former player, didn't have a big enough appreciation for how morale works in a locker room, what is needed to give this team a boost. And once you kind of have that understanding of that's the way Kevin Adams works, it makes sense that he never made that big, bold move in previous off seasons when maybe on paper it wouldn't have been the smartest acquisition cost. But for those young teams, they might have needed that manager to make that bold move to say, I believe that you guys can get to a division crown, or you can make a run and then you can make a playoffs. It's almost like if your boss doesn't believe in you, why should we believe in ourselves? And Jarmo, by taking over, by default, almost kind of had the easiest card any incoming general manager could ever have, because he looks at this roster, he's like, these guys actually have some talent. And if they win, I'm going to get a lot of credit for it. And you know what? If they lose, I get no blame, because everybody's going to blame the person before me. So know what I do the first day? I tell them, I believe in them. I believe in all of you guys. But you know what? You're playing for your jobs. Yeah. You don't step up, I'll trade you guys. And I'm like, Kevin, I ain't trading you to the Florida Panthers or to where you can go to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. I'm not trading you to the Vegas where you can enjoy the Vegas nightlife and you go to Stanley Cup finals. I'm going to trade you to Siberia. Like, I'm getting you the hell to the worst place in the world. I don't care where you go. As long as I get what I need in return, sayonara. Enjoy 5 years of not going to the playoffs in some other damn organization. And you know what? I always understood what Kevin was trying to do. He was trying to do the whole goodwill. I do good things for players. Then players are going to want to come here because they know that I'm going to look out for their best interest. And he thinks that if he does this, other general managers across the league are going to want to work with him. It backfired. You got taken advantage of. You got taken as a fool, a guy that was inexperienced that, if I just bitch, I can get my way out of Buffalo. Other general managers don't want to make deals with you because they're afraid that you're going to just try to take advantage of them and that you're not realistic in what you actually want. So, I'll end it by saying this. I think Kekalainen is in a good position right now. I think he knows what Tuck means to this roster, and I have a higher level of confidence they will figure it out. If not by the trade deadline, I still believe they will likely hold on to him for the morale of the team and try to work something out before the start of free agency.
Yeah, I think if you were to ask me about Alex Tuck, I don't know, 2 weeks ago before this win streak started, I had maybe a little bit of a different answer than what I do now. I heard this, I think, on WGR, it might have been early this morning, I came up my Instagram feed, that every game that they win, it makes it that much easier to re-sign guys or bring people in. And it was specifically talking about Alex Tuck. But yeah, winning does cure everything, right? So like for Tuck, I'm assuming probably from his standpoint and perspective was, well, yeah, like Buffalo's cool and all. Like I guess I'm like somewhat close. I can visit my family and everything like that. We haven't won. Like, what is going to be the tipping point for me to say, well, I want to come back. Not only am I going to get paid a nice raise, but at the same time, like I don't want to be a perennial loser. Like I want to enjoy actually what I do. So right now, I think this is a really, really good time to get into some negotiations. And I'm sure they've probably had their fair share of talks and conversations about negotiating. Like Tuck's an extremely versatile player. I think he's one of the most versatile players in the league. You can throw him anywhere, and you know he's going to be a solid player. Power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5. You can put him up and down the lineup. Like the guy will drive the plane if it means. Like he's just an all-around beast, right? But at the same time, like the contract, if you're looking at it from a logistics side, yeah, there's certainly a risk and certainly a potential for this to go wrong. Like 8 years for a guy who's 30 or 31 right now, like that has potential to go south, especially with the
29 right now.
Right. So 37, if you give him that 8-year deal, plus it is a good chunk of change. Like it's going to depreciate with the cap percentage over time, more likely than not. But at the same time, like, yeah, of course you're getting yourself in a risk. I think right now I would like to bring him back. I think he's a guy, a veteran experience. Like I don't want to be in this continuous cycle where it's like, hey, well, here comes this kid from Rochester who's lit the lamp down there, and he's got plenty of potential, but he's unproven. Like we've been on too many question marks for too many times now, year after year, where we do have parlays that we're throwing together before the season and hoping all of them hit. And we saw, okay, the parlay is starting to hit right now, but at the same time, like we got to have a more consistent product over and over where the outcome is not going to be such a roller coaster night in, night out. And what you're going to see on the ice. So I think Tuck's definitely a guy who is part of the solution and not part of the problem, right? Like I would give him probably 6 to 8 year deal probably for 10.5. Max ago is probably 11. If he wants anything over that, then I seriously start to ask teams around the league, hey, like, what are you thinking about this guy? Or maybe is there a team, you ask that weird 2 to 4 teams in the league that's not really a seller or a buyer, they're just kind of stagnant, which is kind of a weird market nowadays. But if you ask those teams, maybe they look for a trade with Jarmo. Like this is just pure speculation, but maybe Jarmo looks for a trade where maybe Tuck isn't the best player in the deal. Like that's a hard thing to find, but it's certainly possible, right? Like I don't think that's a likely outcome. But it's definitely something they could look into. But right now, where I stand on it, if you were to ask me 10 games ago, I'd say you better start looking around for trade pieces and how can we get a guy who's significant enough in return, but also at the same time maybe a pick or a B-tier prospect. But right now, as it stands right now, time can definitely change. But I think he's a guy that is a pivotal player that you want to bring back. But again, it does have to be at the right price. But at this point, I think you're flexible with that.
The tough part about getting somebody better in return is that likely whoever you trade Tuck to, unless they're already in their championship window right now, they're likely going to want to extend them. So unless they're a team that's already a cup contender, if they're a cup contender, they're not going to want to give up something great at that point.
Unless it's tricky for sure.
Yeah.
So if you give them up to somebody else who they think they're good, maybe on the verge, and they want to extend Tuck, how do you get somebody better? There's one of like 2 possibilities. You get an aging veteran who has produced at a high level, but teams might be fearful that maybe they're starting a decline or that they have some term still on a contract that they don't want to be dealing with a 34-year-old as they get to be 35, 36, 37. tough part with that is most of those guys are probably going to have a no trade clause. And if they're already on a playoff team,
yep,
they're not going to want to come most likely to Buffalo unless they could get talked into it. The other possibility is you're looking at a guy that is an RFA or an unrestricted free agent in the upcoming years that's very young, that would have to probably be an RFA, to be honest with you in this case. Somebody that's very young who basically has told a team, I'm not going to re-sign with you. And in that scenario, Sabres take on the risk and basically say, well, maybe you can get us over the top and we can convince you to extend in Buffalo. But that's why it's all with these basically no trade clauses and stuff like that. It's very hard for the Sabres to get a better piece in the deal. Most likely you either try to trade for somebody like a caliber of Zucker, who's older, or you trade for somebody younger who is unproven. And in the best case scenario, most of the time you get a player and a draft pick, or you get a prospect in return. So I don't know. It's tough. From a team building perspective, people will say if he's gone, like if he's not re-signing, you got to get what you can get. But I look at it, I think ending the drought is such a big weight that no one will ever acknowledge it because it's technically the irresponsible thing to do. But they almost have to just bite the bullet and do what it takes to end the drought. And once you do that, maybe when people start seeing some playoff hockey in Buffalo and they see a sellout crowd and they see the passion of our fan base and the arena getting crazy and loud, and maybe you shock the world and you win a series, then people will maybe be a little bit more willing to decide, okay, you know what, maybe they got something going there. Maybe I could see myself there for a couple years if it means getting some nice money and being part of a growing team and being that part that takes them over the hump.
Yeah, and I like some of these comments of just what is going to happen. I love Brian Rust. When I was with the Penguins, he is the nicest guy. Like, he works hard every game. Like, he's like Alex Tuck in Pittsburgh, kind of, that works hard, can score goals, can kill, does a little bit of everything. So that would be nice. My thing with Alex Tuck, though, and the thing that bothers me is, in my mind, you can either get paid in the short term or get a longer term deal with not as much money. And for a guy that's 29, and to want, 11 mil, 10 mil plus for a guy that's 29, like, that doesn't make any sense. But Bunty, I like what you're what you're talking about of giving, let the season happen. In my mind, I would rather see that than try to make a move, because if you're moving on from a guy like Alex Tuck, that is going to shake the foundation of your team and the feeling of the team. And I think I would rather roll the dice, because in my mind, you're going to get the season out. If the team is playing how they are now, like, there's no way you can make a trade like that in my mind. But we'll see what Jarmo does. And, I have more faith now than I did, when Adams was the GM, of a deal being done to extend him. And there was a comment from Gar up here too of, what that would look like cap wise. The Sabres will have right now projected $21 million of cap space next year. So if you have Tuck, let's say they pay him 10, now you're down to 11 million to re-sign Zach Benson, Josh Stone, Michael Kessling. Peyton Krebs is due for a deal. I'll have to look. There might be a couple other names in there too that are worthwhile. Like, it gets dicey there. That's why, I've seen Matt talk about the Skinner deal. When they bought him out when they did, they're paying him 6.25 next year to not play on the Sabres. So this will be the first time we're going to see the Sabres spend to the cap, and it's because they really have to now. So I'm interested to see what they do there. Bunty, before I kick it for final thoughts, I do, anyone watching, thank you for the over 3,500 people that stopped this night, whether you're on, Twitter, Facebook, or our YouTube. Follow us on Cross Swords Pods on Instagram, on Twitter. We're trying to go the Facebook out as well. We have our YouTube Trainwreck Sports, where we have videos going up every game. We have our live show here where we talk Sabres. We have Pay the Bills talking, the Buffalo Bills, Happy Hour Hoops. We have Trainwreck today. We have a bunch of different shows talking all things Buffalo. So please, give this video a like. Please subscribe, follow along. And yeah, again, thank you to everyone stopping in tonight on a Thursday night. New year, new Sabres. Bunty, what is your final thoughts here as the Buffalo Sabres are on a 10-game win streak? The Buffalo Sabres have one game in Columbus before they come home against Montreal. And quickly on that, I just look at ticket prices for that first game back. It's only like $40 to go to the game. I thought it'd be a little bit more at this point, because even if the Sabres lose, that place is going to be loud because it feels like people are caring again.
I just want to let it be known. So obviously 2 years ago, I had half season tickets. And then this year, I have a buddy I split seasons with, but I only had tickets for like 16 games. The Sabres invited me to the Boston game. I already had tickets, but I just took the tickets the Sabres gave me.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to obviously sell me. Like they had me in a suite and went through like all the motions, everything. I bought another 12 games. So now I'm going to have my remaining games in the 300s, and then I have the other half of the games in the 100s. I think I have tickets to like 19 remaining games this year. So like outside of like bowling night and like a Saturday matinee games, I'm going to be at like almost every Sabres game going forward the rest of the year. So if that tells you anything, I have bought. Like I'm all in on this Sabres team right now. It's funny because I actually split them with somebody that's in the chat here a little bit, but I'm excited. I truly believe that this team has what it takes to end the drought. But what I would ask fans is be excited, be optimistic, but also be realistic. Don't suddenly think a 10-game winning streak means the Sabres are one of the best teams in the NHL. They are not at that level yet. Their metrics are much improved, but they're still not metrics of a top 5 team. They are probably a slightly above average team when you factor everything together. Right now, their offense the last couple of years has been in that 10 to 14 range, and now their defense is starting to approach that 10 to 14 range. And goaltending has always been an issue, but it's getting better. If they can get solid goaltending and keep their defense close to where it is right now, they're going to be a dangerous team going forward. You don't need to be top 5 goal scoring, top 5 defense to be a very good team. But if you can be like a 10 to 12 offense, like middle of the pack defense, middle of the pack goaltending, you're going to be good enough to be a pretty solid team. So I hope they keep it up. I'm excited. The arena definitely was super energized against the Bruins. I think that's going to continue. And there's something about, and this, don't call me crazy, but there's something about having positive vibes. Younger people will call it aura, but like people my generation, they might call it mojo. But when you have that energy going for you, everybody feeds off of it. And I'm sounding like Aaron Rodgers on some of that, whatever that grass he has.
Bundt on ayahuasca.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is like positive energy like breeds positive results. And this city, this organization has just been such a negative cesspool of crap for so long. And you see the smiles on the players, you see the enjoyment after winning and finding a way to finish things off. I hope they ride this wave. I hope the fan base embraces them and welcomes them back, and that they can keep it going. And I just hope that this ends up being the year that they end up taking it to the playoffs, snapping the drought. And then once they get there, who knows what happens. And the last thing I will say about Tuck too, it's a big reason why Jarmo brought Flynn in from Columbus. Dude's a well-known salary cap guy. He knows how to work numbers. And as we've seen with the Bills with Brandon Beane, even though there's sometimes some bad that goes with the good, if you have a guy that knows how to work the cap, you're going to be able to figure things out. And I know the hockey cap is different than the football cap, but there's always ways of figuring things out if you have enough creativity and ownership that's willing to go along with front office staffers. So if they think they can get it done with Tuck, I'm still going to have confidence that they're going to get it done with Doan and Benson. If for whatever reason they believe they'll lose Doan or Benson as a result of extending Tuck, that's the number that then leads you to start figuring out, do we have to trade him? And if you end up holding on to him for the entire season, you miss the playoffs by a couple points, and then you end up trading him for a 5th-round pick during the draft just for somebody to try to extend him before. Would that suck? Yes, it would suck. But I would still argue that while it wouldn't theoretically be the best team-building exercise, that just from a morale and finishing the season strong point of view, it might be the reckless, irresponsible thing that they probably have to still try to get by with, even if they get criticized from others in the National Hockey League.
100%. I think just to wrap it up with talk, like I have a ton of confidence in the Sabres front office. Like they had bits and pieces, a lot of really smart people in there in the previous regime, but not a ton of experience. And you look now with Mark Bergevin, that's a guy who, Kings fans are like, thank God he left. But at the end of the day, like he's a guy who has tons of experience. I give carried them basically single-handedly to that Stanley Cup run, but like they were the 24th team or something like that in the standings, and they went on that run. And then you also look at Josh Flynn, a guy who has been with one organization for an absolute minute now with Columbus since 2008, worked his way up, really, really smart guy. Like you need somebody that's going to be able to work the cap and be able to know the ins and the outs and the X's and the O's of the salary cap. And that can be any little advantage like that. Those little wins can definitely translate towards your team in the long run. And then you keep guys like Sam Ventura, who's phenomenal with analytics. It seems like Jarmo's a big analytics guy. The front office just is probably going to be looking at a lot of advanced numbers when it comes to making decisions. So we'll have to see. I still feel like there is going to be definitely change coming, whether the drought breaks or not come summertime, which will be definitely another thing to keep an eye on. It depends. It all depends, because right now you definitely know Benson and Doan are two guys that you're going to prioritize. Like that is your future right there. Those are guys who are studs as it is right now. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts on whether or not you're going to bring those guys back. It's already a set decision. So we'll have to see. Keep an eye out for Alex Tuck and some rumors and stuff with that. But the more they win, I think the more likelihood he ends up staying and ends up re-signing here. And what the price tag will be there, I think will also say a lot about how maybe agents and people view the organization, and also how Jarmo and his new front office is going to go about negotiating with guys of his own and free agents. But as far as the team goes, one game at a time here. I'm just happy we got some meaningful hockey here, what seems for the next 3.5 months or so. And that's a really, really fun place to when every game matters. It's a lot more fun, to say the least. And I feel a bit more passionate when, you're out of it in February. It's like, damn, now we're looking for next year. Who's going to be good for next year? But when you're in it each game like that, that's awesome. And I'm excited. As Bundt said, though, be optimistic, but also be realistic. And I'm just excited for the stretch here. And we got the Olympics coming up as well. Tage Thompson's an Olympian. This is going to be great. It's an exciting time if you're a hockey fan in Buffalo.
Yeah, not too many times we've been able to say that. I've been loving the comments all night. I want to thank everyone commenting along. Gar, Luke, Steve, Bazzy, you just joined. Matt, always good to see you. Coyote, Steve, Noble, always an honor and privilege to see you in chat and talk Sabres and talk in a way like we have tonight, where at least for the first time since I've been, talking about the Sabres online, that I genuinely feel that this is sustainable. We've seen them go on stretches where they go on wins, they get hot, but the way they're playing right now is something that it isn't a flash in the pan where they're, scoring way above they're expected. They are playing the game the right way. We're seeing them score in different facets. This isn't a Sabres team from a couple of years ago where, they're just running, gunning, winning games 6-5. They have had a blueprint basically every game on this win streak and have stuck to it. Yes, things change when you get up a goal early, but they've been an incredible second period team. It is unfathomable how they just always just win the second period right now. They get to a third period, either get it to overtime and win it or survive, win from there. And it's been something that is exciting right now. It's making people proud. I love the idea, though, that Doan should be the priority of the long term from Jarmo of getting a deal done. Him and Benson, I think, in my mind, I would rather have those two signed than one Alex Tuck. The people are loyal to the crest. Thank you guys again. 10 plus would be a disaster for a guy that's 29. for that long term. Forecheck, back check, paycheck. We're seeing that all right now, and we're seeing the Sabres get 10 straight wins. Very excited for Saturday when they can go for 11. This has been such a fun time, gentlemen. This win streak, you look at the Dallas game, I thought when they got scored 15 seconds, I'm like, oh, this was a fun run. Like, this was a cool thing the Sabres were doing. This win streak was cool. We knew this Dallas team was great. They're going to get knocked down to earth a bit, but the resiliency they showed there truly was awesome. Yeah, so we will see what happens there. Tuck continues to put up points. So, again, we will see what happens. And like you guys said, winning will heal all elements. Would that be fans not in the building, Alex Tuck not signing? The future of this team will get better, obviously, with the more wins that happen. But again, thank you to the near 4,000 people who stopped in tonight to hear us talk about the Buffalo Sabres, who are currently in a playoff spot. I've been Gatesy, joined always by the incredible Mike_Bundt, and Carson Hayek. And gentlemen, hey, we'll be here. One final thought too. Every Thursday, we're getting back in now that the holiday season's done. Around 7 o'clock. If you like this, tune back in. We will be here. We'll see you all on Thursday. Let's go Sabres.